Hello, everyone. I'm sad that I can't be with you all in person, but I'm really grateful that I still get to talk to you about something I feel really passionate about. And I'd like to start with a story. It's nighttime in Zululand, and the men who have been working in the Tula Tula exclusive private game reserve are ready to retire, having captured and corralled several antelopes for a breeding program. The frantic antelopes mill about restlessly, not knowing what to do. Out of the twilight comes a herd of elephants. They encircle the enclosure, inspecting the situation. The people keep their distance, apprehensive of the elephants. The matriarch of the herd steps forward and uses her trunk to unlatch the bolts and open the gate. The antelopes escape into the developing darkness. The elephants disappear back into the night. This is a true story, as recounted from Patrice Jones's essay, Stomping with Elephants. Such stories of resistance teach us that other animals are far from the helpless, voiceless victims our movement often portrays them as. They are individual subjects who have agency, with their own feelings, desires, and preferences. Collectively, our fellow animals have their own histories, cultures, and communities. It is important that our fellow animals are centred in their liberation movement, and that we position ourselves not as their saviours, but as their allies and accomplices who stand in solidarity with them. Sadly, for too long, relentlessly, and without accountability, the human animal has dominated the world from a place of tyranny over all others, intoxicated by a delusion of human exceptionalism and supremacy. Our relationship with our fellow animals is one of subordination, control, and violence. We render them objects to use as we please. We take away their self-determination. We manipulate, consume, and commodify their bodies. We keep them captive. We destroy their homes. We oppress, we subjugate, we violate, we maim, we kill. We deny them their individuality and their freedom. We mock, we ridicule, we cutify, and infantilize them. There is no greater injustice in size and scale and duration than that inflicted by humans on other animals. And yet, the injustice of speciesism has been so normalised that its ubiquitousness goes mostly unnoticed and unchallenged. Atrocities are hidden away in sterile laboratories, in darkened sheds, in cramped cages and stinking, crowded spaces, behind high walls and barbed wire fences. Some are oppressed in plain sight, such as those bred or captured as so-called pets. Those being forced to work for or entertain humans. Those we call vermin, because we refuse to share spaces. Those whose homes and lives we destroy as we spread and sprawl our human-centred world to every part of this beautiful planet. And so it is for us, as allies, to bring attention to and challenge the injustice, to dismantle speciesism. How do we do this? Importantly, we need to do this through our activism. Where we can, we assist their physical liberation. We provide sanctuary for the refugees. We support those giving sanctuary. The world tries to invisibilize and silence our fellow animals. We must not let this happen. So we protest, we outreach, we educate, we create art and theatre. We write poetry, plays, music and books. And we hold events like this one. We bring other animals' stories out from the shadows and into the light. We must elevate and amplify their voices so that they can no longer be so easily ignored. Let's centre our fellow animals in our advocacy and always keep them at the heart of everything we do. We must also show solidarity in our relationships with our fellow animals, in our direct interactions with them, and in the choices we make that may indirectly affect their lives. To do this, I believe it's important that we continually practice three important values in our relationships with them: curiosity, humility, and empathy. Let me expand. We need to be curious, to wonder about their experiences, to learn more about them, and to be open to learning from them, and where we can, take their lead on how we can improve our relationships with them. We need to bring a huge dose of humility, to temper our own human hubris, to question our own opinions, to avoid complacency, and to acknowledge we don't always get it right. We have always been, and still continue to be, saturated by human supremacy and speciesism, so we have a lot of socialized conditioning to dismantle in ourselves. It's important to remind ourselves that even though we are doing our best, we might not know what's best. We must recognize and acknowledge our human privilege and relinquish it wherever we can. We need to practice empathy, to try to imagine things from our fellow animals' point of view, to take their perspectives. It's impossible for us to completely remove our anthropocentric filters that shape our views of the world and those we share it with. We are inescapably human. But we must strive to be continually aware of our standpoint and how this colours everything we do. Many of us have direct interactions with other animals that we care for in our homes and sanctuaries. It's important to remember that they are refugees and that we respect their personal space and their self-determination as individuals. I once saw an activist so determined to get a selfie with a pig resident at a sanctuary that he towered over her, grabbed her and ignored her very vocal complaints. As soon as she could, the pig ran off. So we need to listen and pay attention to what our fellow animals are communicating with us. We may be drawn to them, but it's hard for us to know what their experiences have been, the trauma we may trigger, and how they feel about us. Whether in our homes, in sanctuaries, or in the wider community, fellow animals require opportunities to make choices, to order their own lives and to flourish in their own way. We need to create spaces and foster environments where they can thrive. And we must respect and protect the homes of free living animals. We can't do things perfectly, and we often have to make difficult decisions for others. But if we bring our curiosity, humility, and empathy to each situation, I believe this will help us to do our best a little better. We can also show solidarity with our fellow animals in how we speak about them. Language is how humans communicate, and the words we use reflect and reinforce our beliefs and attitudes and shape the world around us. Our words can be a form of resistance to injustice and oppression. They are a political tool that can disrupt the norms of the oppressive language that's used to hide and normalise violence and violations. Most of us have the opportunity every day to modify our language, to be mindful of the words we choose when speaking about other animals, whether in our activism or in our everyday conversations. Our use of language is something that we can and should keep reassessing and evolving to align with our solidarity in the liberation of our fellow animals. We want respect and justice. Let's say this. We want to end the breeding, use, and murder of other animals. Let's be clear about this. We want relationships that acknowledge the inherent rights of fellow animals to freedom, self-determination, and spaces to flourish. Let's be loud and proud about this, instead of sending confusing messages about cruelty and abuse. As the late great animal rights philosopher Tom Regan said, being kind to animals is not enough. Not being cruel is not enough. Through both our actions and our words, we can challenge the norms of cultural speciesism by showing and speaking a different way of relating to other animals. We can create a new narrative and non-hierarchical, respectful relationships. We can champion other animals, showing not only their struggles and suffering, but also portraying them as individuals who have their own preferences, needs, and desires. They are people with unique personalities who build complex relationships, who create and value friendships. We need to show that they have moral and emotional lives. They love, they grieve, they play, they create art, they feel joy and sorrow. They practice cooperation and mutual aid within and across species. We have so much to learn from them. They build communities and cultures that shift and change and evolve because of the unique individuals in them. So let's no longer misrepresent them as merely helpless, voiceless victims. I'd like to read a quote from an amazing book about fellow animal resistance by an activist who tragically died a couple of months ago. These are the words of the brilliant Sarat Colling. When celebrating animals' resistance and supporting their bids for freedom, let us remember all those individuals who are unable to share their stories with us. There are currently billions of animals held captive on this planet who are unable to escape. And there will be countless others until we end the war against our fellow beings. We are often taught to turn away from other animals and their struggles, but on the contrary, it is time to turn towards them. Every one of them is an individual. Each one has a story to share. Sarat's passing leaves a huge void in the world and in our movement. She will be sorely missed. Let us bring their stories of resistance into the light. From Bonnie, a mother cow who hid her calf after giving birth, to stop him being taken away as so many of her babies had before. To Jean-Claude and Jean-Pierre, two male ducks who went to great lengths multiple times to reunite after they were separated at Vine Sanctuary for fighting, when actually they were a couple and that wasn't fighting. Santino the chimpanzee, who collected rocks to throw at visitors to the so-called zoo that imprisoned him. To the individuals who jump walls, creep under fences, disentangle themselves from nets and hooks, who cry out, who scream, who barge, bite, push and run. Our fellow animals use their voices to protest and their bodies to resist. They defy, refuse, and ignore commands. They find ways to liberate themselves and others. To these, and also to those who stay silent, who cannot or choose not to resist, let us say, we see you, we hear you, and we stand with you with unwavering solidarity until every cage, every lab, every shed, every animal prison is demolished and humans share spaces respectfully with all other earthlings. We will never stop fighting with you. Advocates, I have a question for you. Are you ready to be an ally? Are you ready to fight for animal liberation? Thanks for listening.